So now we need to talk about break, continue and pass statements, and we can use a break, pass and the pass and continue statements within the loops, whether it's a while loop or a for loop. So I will define a for loop right here, and you can just check out how you can use with the while loop. So let's define a list first, and I'm gonna give it some values. Alright, and I have defined a list. Now let's add a for loop, and I will define a variable in list, and I'm gonna print out num right here. Okay, so let's run this app. Python first.py. So it has printed all these letters. What if I want this execution to stop executing when we reach to the number 54? Alright, or we can get a number from a user and we can check out if that number that user has entered exists in any particular position of this list. Then we need to stop execution of this for loop. So what I'll do here, I will add an if statement, and in my if condition I will write if num equals to 54, then I want to break. So let's run this app and I'll show you that what it's gonna do. So you can see that it has printed 3, 4, 7 and 3, 3. So it has printed the numbers up till here, and it has left these two numbers. So what's going on right here? The for loop is executing and iterating through each and every value of this list, and it keeps on checking this condition if num equals to 54. So when these were the values, this condition were not getting true. Alright, so this statement wasn't executing because this is inside the body of this if condition. So this was not executing, and print is aligned at the same column of this if, so it's outside the body of if condition. And when it gets failed, or it gets failed, it will come right here and it's gonna print out the value inside the num variable. And if I write 7 here, then it's just gonna print out 3 and 4. You can see that it has printed out 3 and 4 because at the 7th position it has break out from this particular loop. So break statement takes out the execution of program from a very first loop in which we have written break. We can have multiple if nested if statements within this loop, like we can have if, and we can have another if and all such things, and we can also write the break within this if, and this break will go back to the top and find the first loop that is it will find. Like we can have this for loop, and it's going to take out the execution of program from the very first for loop that it will find. If this for loop is within another for loop, then the execution of program will remain inside the outer for loop. Let's say that I have another for loop for let's say while, and I'm gonna first define a variable var equals to 1, and I'm going to write while var is less than 10. Let's bring it forward. Alright guys, so this for loop is within this while loop. Okay, let's print out the value of var right here. Okay, so this whole code is within this while loop, and it will keep on executing unless this condition gets false. And when it will come inside this for loop and inside this for loop we have if, and we have a break, and when this break will execute, when this condition will get true, and this break will take the execution of program outside this for loop. Okay, means it will take out the program right here because this is not inside the for loop, and then we'll keep on executing from the while starting from here. Okay, so it will break out the execution from the very first loop, whether it's a while loop or a for loop of the execution. So let's talk about the continue. It's just like the same as we discussed with the while loop. So first I'm gonna remove these statements, and I'm gonna bring these lines of code back to one tab. So instead of writing break, I will write continue. Okay, so what it's gonna do is it will not take the execution of program out of this for loop. Instead it's gonna exempt the preceding statements, whether it's a print statement, whether it's another for loop, whether it's if statement, all the preceding statements that are within this for loop and after this continue statement. It's gonna exempt all those statements, and it's gonna move the execution of program back to the for loop, and it will keep on executing the body of for loop again. So let's run this program again to see what's the difference. So you can see that it has printed 3 4 3 3, and it has exempted 7 because when the num equals to 7 means we have reached right here at the 7, and this continue statement executed, and what it did was it didn't let our interpreter to come down and print the num value, and num was containing 7. Instead it moved the execution of program back to the for loop, and the next time the num variable will be having 3. Alright, so 7 will be exempt because I have written the print statement after this continue, and this 7 value will not be printed. So this is how the continue work, and it is same as the break. It's gonna also it's only going to move the execution back to the for loop which it will find very first that it will find. If it has another for loop, it's not gonna take out the execution of program or move the execution of program on the parent for loop, but the child and very first for loop that it will find. So next we have a pass statement. The pass statement does nothing. Instead, the benefit of pass statement is that if we have a block of code, and in that block of code we haven't written anything yet, and we want to make sure that whether our execution of program is going to that particular part or not, and in order to verify the execution of program, the existing of execution, we can use a pass statement. Okay, so what I'll do here, I will just keep on and I will write pass right here. Okay, and after that I will print out a passed message within the brackets. Alright, and the print statement is being followed by this pass keyword. So what it's gonna do, when this if condition will get true, this pass keyword will be executed, and this pass keyword will let this print statement to be executed only once, and we can then make sure that we have our this block of code has been executed, means that our if condition has been executed. You might not feel comfortable using the pass keyword with this small example, but later on if I will be working on large applications and the large programs that we'll be writing and where we will be using this pass statement, and that has very benefits to use in that scenario. So let's run our application and see what's the result. So you can see that it has printed out 3 4 and it has printed out passed only once. Okay, it hasn't moved the execution back to the for loop, or it neither taken out the execution of program out of the for loop. Instead it only let this print statement to be executed for once. Okay, so this is how we can use a pass statement, and we'll be further working on the pass keyword later on when we will write large programs. So that's it for now. Next we'll talk about mathematical functions, the built-in mathematical function for finding the minimum values, for finding the power, for finding the absolute value from a number, and much more things.